Welcome, neophytes and Cenobites, to Tibalt's Apprentice. This week, we're talking about the most overpowered and underused keyword in Magic for Commander.
Sweet.
Yeah, there's
all of
one,
which I like.
There's one word, and that's it. There's only one word.
There's only one word?
Yeah, you know what that word is, right?
I win? No.
Well, that comes later. That comes later. But before that, what I chose for my one word, we actually had to have five, but my one word is all. If you see all on a card in Magic, it's going to have, potentially, if you use it correctly, a game-breaking effect. This is up for debate. And this was the clickbaity portion of the episode to get you to tune right in, right, to see what that word is. I'll give it to you right now. It is all. And if you can combine that with another keyword like opponents, it's even better. Of course, I'm thinking of Ashiok Dream Render.
Oh, yeah.
Getting rid of all the graveyards, all opponents' graveyards.
Yeah.
That's brutal. That's
Awesome.
brutal. What we're actually going to look at, though, is 5 keywords that we think are important for Commander. Each of us have 5, so a total of 10.
Oh, yes.
And so, having said that, let's just get right into it. What's your first one?
All right. So the first keyword I chose is buyback.
Buyback.
Yes.
Okay.
So 2 examples of buyback cards are, and we've mentioned them before.
Some of these will be, yes, some of these
Well,
will be.
one we've mentioned before is capsize.
Capsize, absolutely.
And buyback, capsize with infinite mana.
Buyback, a permanent, bouncing a permanent, yeah, just brutal.
Oh, yeah.
What's the other one, though?
The other one is slaughter. And so it's not one that I've put into my decks yet.
Okay.
But I've been really thinking about doing it.
Okay.
It's 2 generic, 2 black. And it's buyback cost is 4 life. And the text goes, destroy target non-black creature. It can't be regenerated.
Nice.
So, I mean, in our play group, there's not we have our fair share of black creatures, but it wouldn't hurt to have that card in there.
Absolutely.
And buy it back for a non-mana. Yeah, it's easy to buy back. You're playing Commander, so you have tons of life.
Right.
Especially for the deck that I'm thinking about putting it into. Like, I'm going to have tons of life. And so, yeah, I'll pick off creatures one by one.
Okay, interesting. So the one that I chose, the keyword that I chose, and I think is important for Commander, and I think in any play group or any situation, any Magic game, is sacrifice. Sacrifice gets around those pesky things like regenerate.
Yes.
Gets around those other things. So my example for that card, and this probably isn't necessarily the best one, but it's the one that's most recent, it's on my mind, because it gives you three potential targets. Yeah, 3. And that's Angrath's Rampage.
Oh, yeah.
The ability to be able to early game removal, and basically for me, it's early game removal and early game creature removal and late game or mid game planeswalkers.
Oh, yeah.
It's a sorcery. It's got to be cast on your turn, but you have to give them the chance then to sacrifice a creature. Well, if they have multiple creatures out there, if you can get it in the first couple of turns, you maybe get to pick which creature because that's the only creature that's going to be there.
Right.
Generally speaking, and if you're anybody else but Enrique, you only play one planeswalker at a time. So you're almost guaranteed a shot at getting rid of that planeswalker. Just to say, if you wanted to get rid of a planeswalker. Sacrifice is, to sacrifice a permanent is to put it in the owner's graveyard. A player can only sacrifice a permanent he or she controls. And the note that term is separate from the ways other permanents can be put into the graveyards. Destruction means you can regenerate and stuff, so sacrifice, you can't do that. Other state-based actions like creatures having 0 toughness, for example, those things are going to be ignored. And players are not allowed to sacrifice things unless it prompted by a game effect. Also important because somebody you decide to sacrifice something, you can't say, oh, well, I get rid of that before it happens or whatever. You actually need a sack outlet. So as the example of sacrifice, I could have chose Ashnard's Altar or Altar Dimension, something like that.
Right.
But I like the idea of being able to take out somebody else's planeswalker creature or artifact if necessary.
Yeah.
But those 3 targets, I think it's a great card, and I think sacrifice is an important keyword for most any commander deck. Could be for any.
It's a great Angrath's
Rampage, yeah.
It's a great commander card.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cheap to cast, and depending on what your board state is, it could be a one-sided wipe potentially.
Yeah.
It's great.
If you can get that more than once, it's definitely good. What's your next keyword?
So the next keyword, me being me, is overload.
Overload.
So, so of course, the card that I have in mind, and went all in when Return to Ravnica was the block, was Cyclonic Rift.
Cyclonic Rift.
I bought 2 play sets of that card because it's awesome.
It's brutal.
And so the great thing about overload cards, you have its mana cost, and then you have an alternate cost. It's very it's a modal type of effect. You can choose a target for the low cost of the its original mana cost, or you can choose the overloaded smack all of your opponents at the same time effect. It's fantastic.
It's terrible, but understandable as being an absolute important keyword. Not only with that, but what's the to get rid of artifacts? Vandal Blast? No.
Yes,
Vandal Blast is
yes.
yeah. Okay.
Another fantastic card.
Another horrific card that I've suffered from. Sorry, forgive me there. Just want to make sure we were on track. All right. Wow, man, that is an awesome one. My next one is actually Scry. Now, we've talked about this a few times. Mystic Speculation being one of the best that I could think of, again, because it's got the buyback cost and so on. But Scry allows, Scry X, for example, allows the player to take the top X cards, examine them, place them, any number of them at the bottom of the deck or back on top wherever you need it. It showed up around 5th Dawn, I think, as a keyword ability. It's so powerful. And because we're playing with a game where I think the description of it being an imperfect game, a perfect game would be one like chess or checkers where you can see everything, you know what the pieces are and so on. In this case, it's an imperfect game because even you don't necessarily know what you know what cards you put in there, you don't know what order they are.
Right.
Anytime you can get an advantage to see what's coming, to make decisions about that, it's potentially, game changing for sure.
Oh yeah.
So Scry is my next one.
And Scry has been around for a long time.
It's been around for a long time.
Even before given the keyword, I remember in Alliances there was a land that had that effect.
Okay.
It was an activated ability. I believe it was Argivian Dig, or I forget the name of the land.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
But yeah, you activate it for 1 and a blue.
Oh.
And you look at your top card, and you can decide to put it on the bottom of your library.
Right.
And yeah, as long as since as far back as
oh, you're killing me! What the heck? After a small difficulty there. Yeah, we're back on track, and we actually have the answer, which is
Soldevi Excavation.
Okay, there we go.
That's the name of the land.
Okay, and that gave you basically a Scry effect before there was Scry. What's your next one?
All right, my next keyword is proliferate.
I've become a fan of that one. Yeah, that one's taken a while to grow on me. What card were you thinking though?
So the card I chose for that was Karn's Bastion, just because you could slot that into any deck.
Any deck, yeah, absolutely. While I was used to the idea of counters on things and so on, the idea that you could, out of nowhere, proliferate them. The best example of multiplying counters, though, that I could think of, mostly because I suffered from it, was your, and now I'm going to blank on it, the blue creature that you brought in to double all your...
Yes.
We just talked about that in the previous episode.
Yeah.
Brutal. But proliferate is an awesome mechanic that can be exploited.
Yes.
Do you feel like, now you said Karn's Bastion can go in just about any deck, as long as there's tokens to be, as long as there's counters to be multiplied, it's going to fit in anything.
Right.
And that's one of the things with, we didn't really talk about this, but the idea of these keywords, we kind of left it open, and we compared just before we sat down here to see if we had overlap. Like last time when we picked them out of the expert level mechanics, we had overlap and stuff. So when we sat down to do this, what was your criteria for choosing these 5 words to talk about?
Shenanigans, basically.
Okay.
What can I pull the most shenanigans out of? And yeah, these cards enable shenanigans all the time.
Indeed. Okay.
Especially if there's a wide range of applications. So with Buyback, depending on the card that you're using, it can have a variety of effects.
Right.
But you're still getting that value over and over and over again. Overload, same thing. It can be applied in many different decks, even though it was primarily an Izzet mechanic. We actually had a recent printing of a card in Modern Horizons that's white and has overload on it, and it exiles creatures basically.
Right.
It was a good card.
So when I was looking at this, I was trying to decide, do I just choose cards that are particular to me? Cards that have won me game? Am I looking at key mechanics and cards that are important to me? Or I guess I chose those, but again, I did the same thing where I tried to choose mechanics that can go into any deck. We talked a little bit last time about the fact that an easy upgrade to any deck, basically, is to find what keywords are appropriate and so on. So let's see. So far for you, we have, which ones? We have
Buyback, Overload, Proliferate.
So my third, is Landwalk.
Yeah.
Landwalk is one that you don't see too much these days. Well, it's out there, but my favorite and the one that I chose to sort of exemplify that would be the incarnation of Anger. Because Anger, if you get it into your graveyard, while it is a creature, it is an incarnation, and if you have a mountain in play, all of your creatures get an effect off that. There's one for each of them. There's one giving your creatures Forest Walk, Swamp Walk, etc. So the idea of Landwalk is absolutely one that is, I think, often overlooked by players, and there's almost always somebody else at the table that's going to have an appropriate land type that you can take advantage of, whatever you have.
Don't play Island Walk. Please.
If you know somebody always plays blue, Island Walk is definitely the way to go. At any rate. What's the next one you got?
Next one I chose was Extort.
Extort. Oh.
Yeah, so Extort is it's a great mechanic because it flies under the radar.
Right.
For those who don't know, Extort is when you cast a spell, you can choose to pay either black or white mana. One black or one white mana. And what it does is it drains your opponents for one,
Just
and
one.
they gain that much life.
Yeah.
So if you have 3 opponents, you drain each of them for 1, and you gain 3 life.
Nobody's hurt too bad, just a little ping here or there. Meanwhile, you're reaping all the benefits.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's like a 3, that's 3 life for you.
Right.
In total. And it's like, it's so sneaky.
So irritating.
It's so sneaky.
So irritating because it is so subtle, and it's one of those things where if you see that on the board, it's usually attached to something small and seemingly innocuous, until suddenly, wait, how did I get down to 35? Wait, I'm at 25? What happened?
Yep.
That all adds up. That all adds up.
Give me all of your life. It's like it's like a repeatable siphon soul.
Yes. And see, I was going to mention that earlier too, as being one of the first things when I talked about all being a keyword.
Oh yeah.
Even though it's maybe not listed as such, siphon soul I think was one of the first ones that I saw in Legends, where everybody at the table, and when we were playing ridiculous numbers of maybe 5 to 10 people, and just a shark pit, just an absolute group therapy game where everybody was out for everybody.
Oh yeah.
Somebody laying that down where it's 2 life from you, 2 from you, 2 from you, 2 from you. Suddenly I've got 6, 10 life. Just ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Yes, but awesome nonetheless. Mine, my next one here is conspire.
Oh yeah.
And I have an entire deck built around this card because she is my commander. Wart the Raid Mother. Now she has a few effects. She comes in as a creature. She brings also 2 green, red-green goblins in with her. And the conspire mechanic is a player casts a spell with conspire. He or she may pay an optional additional cost of... Oh, fuck me. Right along.
Super speed math.
Now that we're on a 2-turn clock, Wart the Raid Mother, great card, have an entire deck built around it. So I was saying that it's additional cost of tapping 2 creatures to share the color with a spell. You can double that one, double the spell. This came up this past game because past week playing against somebody that pinned me down using a, you can only cast 1 spell per turn.
Oh yeah.
Obedience? No.
You're talking about the blue one or the white one?
The white one.
Okay, that's rule of law.
Rule of law, exactly. I was pinned down with that, but I wasn't pinned down too hard because every spell I was casting, though I was only casting 1, I got double the effect on it. So that worked to my advantage. What's your next one?
All right. After extort, I have delve.
Delve. Okay.
And so delve is a pretty cool mechanic because it lets you cheat costs.
Okay.
The one card that I have in particular is temporal trespass.
Ah, okay.
And so normally it costs 8 generic and 3 blue to cast, 11 total mana to take an extra turn. However, I rarely pay that.
You rarely, if ever, pay that, for sure.
3 mana to basically take an extra turn is fantastic.
Right.
It's an excellent rate.
Right. Absolutely. Moving right along, my final word is, my card is Triumph of the Horde.
Oh, God.
So, which of the words on there is most important? I feel all. No, trample. But it is all. Trample to me is the most important word on there. Yes, it has infect. Yes, it's an instant, so it can be played at instant speed on their turn. The infect, the +1/+1 that it gives other creatures, but the fact that it has trample, I think, is the most deceiving and most important part of that card. Because suddenly now a token, a 1/1 that you had no care in the world about, easily a point of damage, suddenly that becomes lethal damage. Suddenly that becomes something that if you don't stop it, it's going to come through. Say maybe a 2/2 instead of a 1/1, but anything, you know what I mean? If you don't, even if you do try to stop it, suddenly it
You
can
can't
change.
just chump block
Exactly.
with a 1/1.
Exactly. So to me, trample. Obviously, Triumph is one of my favorites. But trample is one of the most important cards, and it brings it back around to what I said at the beginning: the idea that it gives all of your creatures, even though it doesn't say all anywhere in the text, it does say your creatures gain +1/+1 trample and infect. The fact that it's all of your creatures makes all the difference. Maybe something was a 1/1 or was a 0/1, like suddenly you have to worry about it now because maybe I've got a wild growth or I've got something else to throw on it afterwards. And it's the that blind side, the potential blind side that trample represents. Being able to give that as instant speed, absolutely awesome. But being able to overrun things, just one of the most important things.
Pretty fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, sadly, we're going to have to speed it along here and say thank you for joining us.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for joining and spending the time with me. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Again, a huge thank you to the folks at Game Chest that allowed me to send in and play a few games with them and have recently joined and subscribed. Be like Victor, make a comment down below. If you agree or think that we're completely full of it, maybe there's 5 keywords that you think are more important. What are they? We'd love to hear. And if you're in the Manhattan Beach area, you're welcome to come and take Enrique's seat for the night. Maybe even take mine, I don't know.
Not without a fight.
At any rate, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell down there. I will be posting, obviously, Tibalt's Apprentice videos, but also arena gameplay videos and so on. So thanks for taking the time to join us. All right, let's hope that we got that.